The animated interview bits use voice-alikes generated from AI tools. All artists are faithfully represented by the original published text by Nick Logan. A deserted Centurion tank and a dummy tree upturned in a ditch provide the first bizarre indications that we've arrived. A viciously cold wind sweeps in across the common, buffeting the white tent in the distance, and the group of moving figures that together form an oasis of life amid the unfriendly sea of bracken and stubbly brown grass. Out there on Cobham Common in wildest Surrey, they are on location filming a Beatle and an ex-goon in the Magic Christian. As the only route out to the film unit is not so much a road as a switchback over a mud bath, the wisest move is to adjourn to the mobile press office parked among a cluster of vehicles off the road, while a courier with a walkie-talkie is dispatched to relay our presence to Mr. Starr. The press room is inside what looks from the outside like a much-traveled furniture truck, and in fact is, except that inside it is plushly furnished with heater, phone link, desk, leather settee, and well-stocked bar. First in the world ingeniously incognito, gloat the publicity people with justifiable pride. When eventually the familiar Beatle face appears grinning at the rear, it is Ringo attired in tweedy +4s and deerstalker, and accompanied by the sound of stomping feet, shaking mud from a hefty pair of laborer's boots.
"You've never done me before,"
says Ringo as welcome, begging a few minutes' grace to get his circulation on the move. If John is the Beatle the public has singled out for the brunt of ridicule and contempt, then Ringo is the Beatle they cling to for reassurance as the flak of shattered images falls about their heads. Ringo's the cozy Beatle, the good old mop-top Beatle boy, who is nearing his 30th year, as everyone keeps reminding him.
"I think maybe people think they're safe with me,"
says the least objectionable or the most lovable Beatle, whichever way you look at him.
"I am married. I'm a family man. There is nothing bad from the public's view to publish about me. I try to keep two lives going. One is only to do with me and mine, and the other is to do with thous and thine. I agree to give them the Beatle, the Ringo, but the Richie I prefer to keep for my family."
And John?
John has just had a divorce. People forget that divorce is happening all over the world, but Mrs. Smith, she never gets a mention. I don't know what people think of John at the moment. Maureen was in Liverpool, and I know a lot of people there are saying that he has gone a bit crazy. But all he is doing is not keeping up with the image they have created, and they think he has gone off his head. All we are is nice people, and I'm not being smart saying that. We are just nice people.
Ringo's services were required back on the common, so we piled into a crowded Land Rover, collected Peter Sellers, and with a warning,
"Mind your heads in the back,"
and a cry of,
all the fun of the fair,
from Mr. Starr, we made our bumpy way to where the action was. Sellers, playing the richest man in the world, and Ringo, his adopted son, were supposed to be on a grouse shoot in which the army intervenes. The two are required to stroll side by side, guns in hand, down a slope. No dialogue needed. It is over in 5 minutes.
"No need for Orson Welles to worry there,"
cracks Ringo as we make our way back. Meanwhile, back at the camp, it is lunchtime, and with Mr. Starr and Mr. Sellers in the rear of Mr. Starr's silver-gray Mercedes, it is off to the village pub, where a table and steaks have been booked. While Ringo reaches for the wine and attacks his steak, we discuss the Beatles' bad press, and he argues that it goes in cycles, and that what might be bad for the public to read is not necessarily bad press for them.
"One minute the press will be all over you saying, 'Good old Beatle boys.' Next year it will be those dirty old scruffs. I prefer it when it is nice. But the other doesn't bother me anymore."
A shrugging of Beatles' shoulders is accompanied by morose Ringo expression. Can he put his finger on the turning point of what was for a long time a good relationship with the press?
It always has depended on the journalist or the paper, however they felt at the time. They can write a story good or they can write it bad. For instance, when we were on tour, you might find in one paper, Beatlemania in Bradford, and in another, Beatle rioters smash up Bradford. Perhaps the reporter came round and tried to get an interview and couldn't get in, so he went off and wrote it badly. If they managed to get in and we gave them scotch, then it would be good old Beatles doing a grand job for Britain.
Does he always understand the action of his fellow Beatles?
No, I don't always understand, but then I am in a privileged position of being the person who is probably the closest to them, and I can go and ask. I read the paper like anyone else, and I think, what's this? What's going on? But then I can go and ask them what it's all about.
The lady who served our steaks came to tell Ringo that she had a daughter away at school who'd be ever so popular if she had his autograph. Ringo obliged. What was his reaction to John and Paul's weddings?
Fantastic. I heard about Paul's when he phoned me to tell me, and I heard about John through the office. I knew why he went away, that he was going abroad somewhere to marry, but I didn't know where or when.
Onto the cheese and biscuits and talk about his son Zach, who is now nearly 4 and approaching the age where his schooling must be considered. Ringo expresses interest in Summerhill, the Freedom School.
I hated my school days. I wouldn't send my son to public school unless he asked to go himself.
29 now, Ringo enters his 30th year in July.
When I was 18, I thought that was the time to die. But the old thing is true about being as old as you feel. I don't feel old, and I don't think I look my age. It doesn't worry me.
He feels his role in Candy came off well, but he adds that in Magic Christian he is largely playing himself. His next film, he hopes, will see Ringo develop as an actor who can sustain a totally different character for 90 minutes. He doesn't find acting particularly difficult.
Candy was the test, and I thought it was easy, so I felt confident to accept this one.
A film featuring all the Beatles is now closer than it's been for a long while, he says, because for the first time all 4 have agreed that they should do one. It is now just a question of the right script, which won't be easy.
Everything that has come up has been Hard Day's Night or Help, and the casting was like in those films. It was just the 4 lads rags to riches thing in different forms. John would be witty, Paul would be pretty, I would be shy, and George would be George. If we do one, Paul and I should be baddies. Why? Because no one will expect Paul and I to be naughty. People really have tried to typecast us. They think we are still little mop tops, and we are not.
Current Beatle work involves the completion of their next LP, and among the several tracks so far recorded is one by Ringo, titled In an Octopus's Garden, or I Would Like to Live Up a Tree. Virtually certain to be their next single is Get Back, which features organist Billy Preston. What's it like?
Paul takes lead vocal, and you can say it's a lovely little toe tapper with an infectious beat that'll get your feet tapping. Yes, if you can sit down when this one is on, then you're a stronger man than I am. Put that in. It'll give me a smile when I read it. It'll make me happy.
Lovable shake of Mop Top Head.